What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Ready Gold Standard podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Matt Llewellyn. We got a great show planned for you guys this evening, recapping the 49ers 30-23 win in Levi's South versus the Rams. Before I toss it over to Matt, if you guys are tuning in on Twitter, head over to youtube.com/49ers Hive. It's scrolling across the bottom of your screen. Join from there so we can see and interact with your comments. We're not ignoring you on Twitter. We just can't see them. youtube.com/49ers Hive. Now they got that out. Matt, how you doing this evening?
A little bit closer than it had to be, so still sweating a little bit, but man, it was a good win. Those are tough wins. You want to see the team be able to win ugly. That's what championship teams do. They can grit it out when it's needed. So all in all, I'm doing pretty good. Went through a wardrobe change at about halftime because I didn't like the feel of the game. You know what I'm saying? So it got dicey there for a second, and the first half especially, it was just an exercise in frustration where I felt like the offense was pretty efficient moving the ball, but the defense just was giving up too many yards. I went through it, man. How are you, Zach? How are you holding up after that close victory?
Yeah, it was tough because clearly I was like comfortable, but at the same time, I'm like, it shouldn't have been this stressful as it was. The defense was very stressed the whole first half. It seemed like they didn't have an answer for what McVay and the Rams offense wanted to do. Seemed like Matt Stafford was able to take whatever he wanted that first half. I think we saw some adjustments made from Steve Wilks, new defensive coordinator, and those definitely showed in the second half, and the 49ers were able to turn those into 2 turnovers, which turned into 6 points. But let's start off, Matt, with Brock Purdy's performance. He finished the day 17 for 25, 206 yards, no passing touchdowns, but he did have the quarterback sneak right before half, and most importantly, no turnovers. What's your thought on his day? I know he's getting a lot of heat right now on social media.
Yeah, and listen, some of that heat is deserved a little bit. I didn't think that this was the best Brock Purdy game that we've seen. In fact, I thought it was one of his worst performances, and it still managed to be super efficient. Very good in the intermediate stuff. I think only missed really 1 or 2 throws on the short stuff. One was the slant to Deebo Samuel. The other was potentially a choice route by Christian McCaffrey. I'm not sure. It was on a 3rd down. It was a 0 blitz, and Purdy threw it outside. McCaffrey cut inside. Maybe a little bit of miscommunication there. But, no turnovers. That's great. There was like a little it counts as a rushing touchdown for Deebo Samuel. It was like a little screen pass to Deebo. Counted as a rushing touchdown. He got 1 rushing touchdown. McCaffrey another on the ground. The biggest thing that I saw was the 3 really bad misses deep. He had one to Ayuk that was wide open for a touchdown, another one to Deebo that was wide open for a touchdown, and then one to Jennings that was also, a critical 3rd down that should have been. So that kind of contributed to the Niners being a little lackluster on 3rd downs. They converted only 2 out of 10, which is not good enough in a lot of weeks. It was this week because, Shanahan just seems to sun Sean McVay every time they play. But yeah, this was, I thought, Purdy's worst performance as a 49er. And notwithstanding, maybe the Dallas playoff game was one where he was a little inefficient. And it wasn't that he was under a ton of pressure. He just, like, those deep throws he missed. So I'm hoping that they can kind of, work on those. It could be a byproduct of being able to hit intermediate short stuff with ease because that's his game. And this could just be the offseason elbow surgery kind of showing itself, right? Not in the fact that he couldn't get it there, because obviously he did. Randy Daytona said, I thought he had a noodle arm. He definitely doesn't have a noodle arm. He overthrew each one of those deep balls. It's just the touch when you're not in camp throwing all the time. I think that, it's just, those are low percentage throws anyways. And when you're coming off an injury, you're not practicing them. I think it leads to a little bit of inaccuracy. So it's something that I'm not super concerned about in the long term, but I am going to be watching out for it. It wasn't good this game though. That's for sure. Overall, I thought he played like a B- game for Brock Purdy, but it was enough to get the job done.
And, I think there was some sarcasm here to Randy Daytona's comment saying the narrative on Brock Purdy was he's got a noodle arm. Well, that's not the case if he's overthrowing these receivers, but I think you're spot on, Matt. It's not something they really practiced in training camp, and maybe it's a, consequence of these guys not really playing much in preseason together. I'm not too concerned about it because maybe Hung Fan said, if that's a bad Purdy game, I'll take it. The offense still put up 30 points. Yeah, maybe they could have put up, 40 something points, but still that I think I saw John Chapman, shout out John Chapman, put out 8 of the 11, starts that Brock Purdy has played fully through and finished. The 49ers have put up 30 or more points. So it's just extremely impressive what Brock's able to do. And most importantly, like I said, no turnovers. We saw on the other side of the ball, Matt Stafford had 2 turnovers. Brock Purdy continues to take care of the ball, not really put it in harm's way. And, I was reminded this morning watching Jimmy Garoppolo play against the Buffalo Bills, how suspenseful it is when Jimmy throws the ball and the camera zooms out and you have to wait for it to go back to the receiver and see where the ball lands. I don't feel that with Brock Purdy. If anything, I have a sense of excitement. Like I'm happy to see where this ball's going to land. But previously I was stressing, I was sweating, trying to, worry about where this ball is going to land. If it's going to get picked off, it's going to be short. That's not really the case. Matt, what did you think of the 49ers running game? Obviously McCaffrey opened it up with that giant run, but outside of that, what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I thought it was a little lackluster. I know McCaffrey had a decent game. It wasn't anything, 20 for 116 looks really good. But if you take that one gigantic run that he had off of the board, it becomes a lot more pedestrian. I thought that they struggled to really open up the run game, and it was a lot of 2 yards in a cloud of dust type of thing, which I think also contributed to the 2 out of 10 on third down. It was just, it wasn't, I say this with all due respect to Brock Purdy and, to the rest of the team, but this was the most Jimmy Garoppolo performance that I've seen out of Brock Purdy since he was here, where it seems like on paper, yeah, they moved the ball. You had Deebo Samuel had over 50 yards receiving and like 50 yards rushing or 30 yards rushing, whatever it was, whatever that run was. Christian McCaffrey, 5.8 yards per carry and a touchdown, right? A couple other guys, but it was just flat. It just, everything was flat. It was just not as impressive. And it's the most pedestrian 30 points I think I've ever seen, where it was just a lot of missed opportunities. If Purdy and the offense clicks and plays 100% up to their potential, I mean, they score 45, 50 points this game. They left a lot of meat on the table, a lot of meat on the bone. I don't know, man. The 49ers lost the time of possession battle. Again, bad on third down, outgained. I don't know, man. I just didn't think it was that great.
It was a interesting performance. I don't think it should have been as close, like I said earlier, as it actually was. But something about the Rams, I guess. Usually these games are a lot more comfortable if we're being honest against the Rams. These rookies and unknown players, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, Tutu Atwell's not that unknown, but I mean, Puka Nacua had 15 receptions for 147 yards today, averaging, basically 10 yards a catch, and Tutu Atwell had 7 receptions for 77 yards, averaging 11 yards per catch. Kyron Williams, not as crazy of a game on the ground, 14 carries for 52 yards. But who said it here in the chat where Wilkes was giving these wide receivers clean releases, letting them have about 10 yards of space. Rams took advantage of what we gave them. That's exactly what I saw in the first. Yeah. Ward was 6-7 yards back on any receiver, allowing them to get a clean release and not mess up their timing at all. I think in the second half, we did see him adjust finally.
Yeah. And again, it's not like this was a secret. We talked about this in the preview, and we talked about this from a perspective of what they did against Seattle and what the Rams have done against the 49ers in the past, and that to negate the 49ers, premium pass rush, the superior pass rush, they get the ball out quick. Matthew Stafford gets the ball out quick. And we said that was the key, right? That he's going to do that, but he'll put the ball in harm's way. It's exactly what happened today. I'm glad that Wilkes made some adjustment. But the fact of the matter is, when you're playing, I mean, when you got a guy named Puka and Tutu catching passes, get up in them, and they're small receivers. They should have been pressing right from the start and make them earn it, right? You gave Matthew Stafford too much time, too many high percentage throws, and the ability to just get the ball out before the pass rush could be disruptive. Another game that Nick Bosa didn't have a sack, but at the same time, he finally got a pressure or two. When they did in the second half get forced to throw a little deeper, that's when you saw the pressure start to get to Matthew Stafford. And they needed to do that right off rip. You take away the upfront stuff, you trust your safeties over the top until they beat you deep, and you kind of work from there because Matthew Stafford will take risks. And I just thought they made it too easy for Matthew Stafford to take the check down and the underneath stuff. So it ultimately didn't hurt the 49ers long term because this was a lot of dink and dunk that the Rams were just taking 5, 6, 7 yards of play. And even on a day where the 49ers offense wasn't as consistent as it could have been, it was enough to get them out with a win. But you'd like to see them adjust better to what the opponent wants to do earlier in the game.
We got a huge super chat from our guy Gray Fox 198. $50 super chat. Best 49ers pod hands down. Thank you very much, Gray Fox. You're the best. Appreciate your viewership all the time. Thank you very much.
Everyone who's in here. I think Jesus is a Rams fan, and he's in here. That's a brave move, man. You're talking stuff rather than holding that L. I don't know how you can do both, but
thanks for tuning in. But yeah, I think something that stood out to me in this game was just Brock Purdy's, and again, we've said this a million times, his calmness, his stillness. That last drive in the first half was very impressive to me. He did not look flustered. He didn't look rushed. He looked like he was in perfect control of the offense, perfect control of the play clock. They had that last play with like 1 second to go. I thought for sure they were going to kick the field goal, and they allowed Purdy to stay in there and get the quarterback sneak, push it in. That was impressive. So I think Kyle Shanahan is feeling a little more comfortable with Brock Purdy there and maybe a little more gutsy. We saw a couple at 1 or 2 fourth down calls today. So that was cool to see. He says, I'm a 49ers fan.
He said 49er fan, but don't be a homer. I don't understand. We criticize Brock Purdy for not getting the job done. We criticize the defense for being too soft and not taking away what was really obvious that the Rams were going to do. So what is homerism? Please explain. Because I think you're just saying words that you're not. You know what I mean? Like, you got to back that up. You can't just say it. Because this was like a C+ performance overall from the 49ers. Not great.
Right.
The only truly great thing that I saw outside of the Christian McCaffrey run was that 57-yarder from Jake Moody was pretty sweet, dude.
That was nice.
He clubbed that.
Yeah.
When they trotted him out there, I was like, this could be trouble. But, dude, he nailed it. That was good.
He slipped a little bit, too, as he kicked it. I don't know if you saw it. It was
I think that was on the 28-yarder.
Oh, okay. Could have been
later in the game. The 57 right before, it was like before halftime or whatever.
Could have been, yeah.
That one was a big one.
I think you're right, yeah. Right as the game started, we saw Brandon Ayuk get a little bit shaken up, and then he came out, and then he comes back in, and then he catches a big third down conversion, and then he's slow to get up. I think they classified it as like a neck injury, Matt, right? Is that correct? Or a shoulder?
Shanny said shoulder in the press conference. They said neck on the broadcast, but again, that was Mark Sanchez, and dude, that was rough.
That was tough.
That was rough. Yeah.
He's no Greg Olsen.
Jesus said you got to give Rams credit because offense was keeping Niners off balance. I'll give them credit for taking the layups that were there, but the fact of the matter is, prior to the game, we called exactly what their game plan was going to be, and Steve Wilkes just let it happen for a half. Like, it was super obvious. They did it last week against Seattle. They did it the last 2 times they played the 49ers, where they took everything underneath to try to negate the pass rush. That's like the Rams book on the 49ers right now. So credit to them for doing what they had been doing, but lack of credit to Steve Wilkes for letting them do it for a half. That's where we're at right now. So I'm not going to give the Rams credit for doing the stuff that they've been doing, right? Like, if I see my trash can full and I take out my trash, I shouldn't get credit for it.
Acebra asked if the Rams, they had 1 sack, and it was from Byron Young. I think it was on like a third and long or something like that.
And then there was that third down where Purdy threw it to Debo behind him, where he got absolutely blasted in the
He took
back.
some hits today.
Yeah.
He took some back out for the stats, and it just popped up. Football, 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 football. Fucking Burger King ad, man.
Yeah,
It
dude.
scared the hell out of me. It just popped up in my headphones. ESPN ads will just refresh every like 30 seconds, so got to turn them off.
Oh yeah, ad blocker, baby.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so the 49ers now have sole possession of first place in the NFC West and are one of two teams, could be one of three if Miami wins tonight, to win their first two games on the road. The Rams are 1-1, Seattle's 1-1, and Arizona's 0-2 after the Giants had a crazy comeback down 20-0, ended up winning it 31-28. How important is it? We talked about this for the past couple of weeks, Matt, and I know the answer, but I just want to stress, and maybe you can, how important it is that they get an early lead and now a divisional win. So how important is that to start off 2-0?
I mean, it's always important. I talked about thinking that the 49ers are going to win this division. I wasn't impressed with, the Rams, despite the fact that they played it close. I think they are limited in what they can do. I just think that the 49ers need to win the games that they're able to win. And let's face it, the Rams, while playing hot early, not a ton of talent. I mean, Puka Nacua, nobody saw this coming from wherever he was from to be the most, had the most catches in his first two games, started in NFL history. They're going to be down at the bottom, right, with Arizona, you would imagine. Wasn't impressed with Seattle today, despite their overtime win against the Detroit Lions. I thought Detroit left a lot of meat on the bone too. But, wins are wins. And so the 49ers being 2-0 early in the season when they traditionally get off to slower starts is a good thing. So getting up and winning division games can only help you in the long run when it comes to trying to make the playoffs. I think the goal for this 49ers team is not only to win the division, but also to vie for that number one seed in the NFC. This is another step in the right direction.
Yeah. Especially since the last couple of years, these slow starts have come back to hurt them. So I'm just so happy it's not happening this year. What was frustrating though, these damn penalties, and I'm pulling up the actual number here.
6 penalties for 57 yards, I believe.
Thank you. And they were
not good.
No, not good. Frustrating. Drive stalls.
I didn't get to see a replay on the Dre Greenlaw personal foul, so I don't know how bad that one was, but
yeah, that one was bad in my opinion. Bad call, not a bad penalty. I don't see what happened. The refs were late to blow the whistle.
Yeah.
The back was not going down, or the receiver, whoever it was not going down. They're fighting for extra yards. Dre Greenlaw goes to pick up his legs because he's still fighting, and then they throw the flag. And they even showed the replay trying to explain where it was, and they just kind of cut away and stopped talking about it. So I think that was a BS call. Jesus asked if Debo fumbled. I thought he was down. I thought his momentum had stopped, but I guess there's an argument that the ball was out.
The ball was out.
Was
the
it?
Ball was out. So you see it right on the edge, right? And then the ball gets, when the guy goes to grab the ball gets tipped, and it was on the chalk. To me, it was clearly on the chalk. So, it is like that one. I was, the one that was a legit penalty. They really got to work with some of these wide receivers, and I saw it across the league with these crackback blocks. That block by Jennings was illegal. All he had to do, he had the time, right? Like turn into him and then straight up, actually engage in a block. It wouldn't have been a penalty at that point. But it was because he was ahead of the play, stopped, and then threw his shoulder into him when he wasn't looking at him, that it was a penalty. So, and I get it from a player safety standpoint. That dude got laid out, and you don't want to see that kind of stuff. So it's little things like that, right? It's just those little discipline things that Kyle Shanahan's teams have been plagued by. They're one of the most penalized teams under Kyle Shanahan. You want to see it cleaned up. It hasn't been the case so far.
Yeah, exactly. Because these are things that can certainly.
Yeah. And they also got away with some too, by the way.
Yeah.
There was a play in the end zone where Gibson almost had the interception, but I mean, he grabbed his jersey to pull himself into position. There was one other one that I'm blanking on right now that was a penalty also that they just didn't call, but they have to kind of shore it up. You know what I mean?
Terradome says breaking news: Rams shopping trade for Akers, possibly Jonathan Taylor of the Colts. Reason for the healthy scratch. Sean McVay hates Cam Akers. I mean, this is going
Well,
back
they
to
touched
last
upon
year.
it on the broadcast that Cam Akers is not doing the things that they need to do culture-wise in the locker room. And if that's the case, like, get him out of there.
Yeah. I mean, they had him inactive last year. It was very public that they were shopping him around. They basically said goodbye to him. And I don't know if they had a trade worked out that fell through. And then it was kind of like, oh, the trade deadline came and went and you're still here. So we might as well use you. And I believe he was active last week, inactive this week. Maybe they'll trade for Jonathan Taylor. I guess we'll see. I see Giants fans wanting to trade for Jonathan Taylor since Saquon's hurt. That would be hilarious if they don't want to pay Barkley, but they're willing to trade for Taylor and pay him. I guess he's younger. Maybe that would be the only.
This just goes to show that every fan base wants to play Madden GM with their team.
Yeah. Niners Nation 57. What do we rate the O-line today, Matt?
I'd say a B. I didn't think that they did a great job engaging and holding their blocks the way that they needed to. And I didn't think they got great push in the run game. But they only gave up 1 sack. I think only like 3 pressures of Brock Purdy. So it's not too terrible. You kept Aaron Donald off the score sheet, which is great. But at the same time, I would have liked to see more consistency in their ability to hold run blocks.
Tim Sutton, breaking news: Rams still suck. Same old sorry ass Rams. Isn't that what the Niners used to say in the 90s? Thoughts on Bosa today, guys? Sorry if you already said it. Effective, maybe not on the stat sheet, but certainly played a role.
Didn't get in the stat sheet, but he was definitely involved, right? It's the same thing. Did Javon Hargrave get on the stat sheet? No, but he almost blew up a run play. You know what I mean? That 4th down play where Oliver got into the backfield and was able to get to the running back. He didn't make the tackle. Bosa cleaned that up. So that, technically speaking, that is a tackle for loss for Bosa. He had a couple of pressures on Matt Stafford, wasn't quite able to get the sack. But I think it was Cam Inman put out a tweet saying that Bosa's like, I'm still trying to get into football shape, which is something that we touched on, but that he got 2 in. He feels really good, even though he went over the 35 snaps or whatever, and that he should just be looking up from there. I think that, as the season goes along, particularly once you get away from teams like the Rams who try to negate the pass rush with like these shorter passes, you're going to get those teams that don't do that. I would expect Thursday Bosa actually is going to get his first sack, and that's because Daniel Jones tends to flush himself into sacks. So don't worry too much about Bosa. He's out there. He's healthy. He's been able to try to play himself into football shape on the fly. I'm not super worried about that. What about you, Zach?
Yeah, no, I'm not worried about it because the effort is still there, right? He's still showing up, pressuring the quarterback, forcing the quarterback to roll out where maybe somebody else can clean it up. The sacks will come. I'm not worried about him numbers-wise. I think those will come. And that's a great point. He was gone for the entire offseason or most of it. So he may say he's up to game shape and he's ready to go as soon as he lands a couple of weeks ago. But we've heard all these players say it. There's nothing that can replicate true game shape and that stamina that you have to build up. I mean, I feel like there was 4 or 5 times that the camera panned over and it's like 3rd and 2 and Bosa's on the sidelines catching his breath, drinking water. So he's still not fully up to game shape, fully ready. But he's still there. I'm not worried about it. He's still Nick Bosa. He's still the best defensive player in the game. And I think that's still to be seen. Or sorry, still shown out there today. Jesus, Kupp and Nakua will be a problem. Yeah, I don't know where the Rams find these guys, man. Go ahead, Matt.
They definitely can be. Once Kupp is back, it's going to depend on what they do, how he recovers from his hamstring thing. But you need Steve Wilks to make an adjustment. This is something that we've seen before where Saleh was able to make an adjustment, where D'Amico Ryans was able to make an adjustment. Now it's Steve Wilks' turn. You get to meet them one more time this season, and it's going to be later in the season when Kupp is probably back on the field. We don't know what the situation record-wise will be, and if the Rams are still playing for something or if they've kind of like packed it in. That'll also play a factor. Teams that are like, 5-11 or whatever at the end of the season aren't really playing super hard in that last game unless it's like spoiler, right? But you want to see a better adjustment and a better game plan going in now that Wilks has seen what his defense with this current personnel looks like against the Rams. you gotta adjust going forward. But if he doesn't, I could see those two definitely being a problem, and them needing an even greater output from the offense in the 30.
Yeah, agreed. It's impressive, to say the least, that the Rams are able to find these later round receivers and turn them into really. I mean, he set a record today, I think, with most catches by a rookie receiver in 2 games or something like that. So
it's the most catches in NFL history in a receiver's first 2 games played.
Yeah, really impressive stuff. I didn't think we'd see a repeat of last week. I'm like, Seattle's trash. That's not going to happen against the Niners. Well, it happened against the Niners, so it is what it is. They still lost. Hung Fat Jackson with another great game. With a great game, another one. Yeah, he didn't have 3 sacks, but he definitely. There was one play I tweeted out towards the end of the game. It was impressive because he almost gets to Matt Stafford as he's throwing the ball, almost swipes the ball out of his hand, and then he chases the receiver down about 10 yards and makes the tackle. Fred Warner had already kind of made it half tackle each, but it was just such an effort play that you love to see from Drake Jackson, a guy who was a healthy scratch multiple times last season just because the 49ers didn't really feel like he was an all-around player. It seems like he's developing nicely into one. And speaking of that, Isaiah Oliver, I think I owe him an apology. Maybe it's too soon to apologize, but he had the amazing one-handed interception today. He had the 4th down stop. What do you think of his performance, Matt?
I thought he was good. He had another stop on 3rd down at the sideline where he was able to tackle the running back ahead of time and really pin him back. I thought that he played a good game, and he showed why Steve Wilkes wanted him for this team and why the 49ers signed him, particularly after Ambry Thomas left the game with that knee injury. We don't know too much about what the knee injury actually is. I'll tell you what, though. I mean, notwithstanding the Oliver thing, they're going to have to maybe look outside the organization for some cornerback help with that $42 million in cap space they got. I wouldn't be surprised if they made a move closer to the deadline for something like that. But Oliver played a great game today. I thought he did really well, and the tempo and the temperament of the defense changed a little bit when it was him out there rather than Ambry Thomas. So I still hope Thomas's knee injury isn't too bad, because between him and Samuel Womack, the 49ers are really thin at the corner position. So pretty good game, though.
Yeah, I agree. Oliver looked good today. I think Kyle Shanahan called him a stud in the post-game press conference. Niners Nation 57. Are you worried about Brock's long ball? He missed a couple deep throws. We talked about this earlier. Both of us basically said no, it's not something to worry about too much.
It's something I'm keeping an eye on, though.
Yes,
I'm not
definitely
worried about it right now because he didn't play at all in the offseason. And I think that those deep throws are much more. Obviously, he had the arm to get it there, right?
Yeah.
So, with that being said, now it's more about timing. It's more about, okay, when am I throwing it? How much do I need to put on it? And I think those are things that come with repetition rather than just being overly worried about it right off rip. I think that it was unfortunate, and I think that they were honestly pretty bad throws, like really bad throws. But, we'll see what happens coming up. And if it becomes a trend, then it's something that we'll definitely be worried about and we can talk about going forward. I don't want to overreact to a couple throws, though.
Yeah. Same. If they were like drastically underthrown, then I would say, yes, maybe this is something to worry about. But last year we saw him connect on these same throws, right? Like he was very good down the field. And this year it's not that bad that he missed 2 or 3 today. He also connected with Jennings down the field. I think he let the ball go on the 49ers like 35-yard line, and Jennings caught the ball at the Rams like 25-yard line. So it's not like he missed every single deep attempt he threw today. He did connect on it at least one. So I'm not too worried about it. Ace Bar, Rams wide receivers, no yards after the catch. We just gave them like 80 yards of space. Interesting. Jesus, Kinlaw still not a factor. I wouldn't say he wasn't a factor. He had
a pass deflection today.
He wasn't completely a no factor.
Well, here's the thing. Their running back had 14 carries for 52 yards, so they weren't able to get a lot on the ground. And he had that pass deflection. So, like, what more do you really want from him? He did his job in the run defense and actually made a play when it counted, deflecting a Matthew Stafford pass. I think, honestly, that's a pretty good game for a defensive tackle.
A non-pass rushing defensive tackle. Like, when the 49ers drafted him, they knew he wasn't going to be
a run stopper.
He's a run Buckner. Right. Exactly. So I'm not overly impressed, but I'm not out on him after this game. Like, it was okay. It was a solid performance from Kinlaw. I'd give him a B-. Oliver looks like a linebacker out there. Losing Jameson and Cuts is coming back to get us, SMH. Deshaun Jameson, I think the 49ers should have kept him, but it is what it is. You can only take
Honestly,
so many.
from a return point, I would say yes, but I watched him, play corner, and like defensively, he was not good. So I'm not that worried about it.
Yeah.
I think David Yang brings up an interesting question, though. We saw nothing from Elijah Mitchell. He did not play at all today. In fact, no other running back saw the field except for Christian McCaffrey. Does that worry you that they're going to be overusing him? Like, what happened to Elijah Mitchell, and why is he not getting on the field?
That is weird. Especially because, I mean, after last week, he was even asked about maybe load management for Christian McCaffrey, and he kind of laughed it off and said, I don't want the game to get too close, right? So I have to keep my starters in. Of course, I'd love to pull them. But okay, what about now? Ian Sharp says maybe he's trying to preserve Mitchell for later, but it's week 2, like,
to be fair,
he's that fragile.
To be fair, I will say Christian McCaffrey got 23 touches, which is lower than what he usually gets. So, and I think that's by virtue of the 49ers only having the ball for 26 minutes and 48 seconds. But yeah, it's really interesting because to me, prior to last week when he only had 5 carries for 10 yards, but last year, Elijah Mitchell was able to really run the ball. And I know our boy Mike from Nothing But Niners has been of the opinion that as a pure runner, he might be better than Christian McCaffrey. Now, I don't think that that's, bore itself out through the course of the first 2 games of the season. Christian McCaffrey looks like a beast, right? But you want to think, I mean, David Yang says that, especially when we have the Thursday night game, maybe that's when Mitchell starts getting more carries. Maybe that's where they get it at. I thought that a lot of our guys, I mean, Ayuk being out there despite having that shoulder injury, which he looked like he was okay. Maybe it was a stinger or something that was like affecting him early that kind of faded as the game went on, because as he started getting catches later, you saw less of the after he did it initially, the next catch that he had really hurt him. And then the one after that seemed to hurt him too. And then after that, it kind of calmed down. But with another game in 4 days, I mean, it's a lot to ask of Christian McCaffrey, of some of these players. I'd like to see Elijah Mitchell get out there because I do think that he was very notable in his absence today.
I don't really understand it. My only possible, explanation is that he is worried about him getting hurt since he's had injuries all of his career. And maybe he's just thinking, if I don't need him, but maybe, Matt, and this is a question I have for you. Are we seeing before our very eyes the 49ers transition from a run-heavy team to more of a pass-heavy team, or more of a 50-50 team? I feel like it's always been like 60-40, 65-35, run-heavy. Are we seeing that switch?
Yeah. I mean, again, there was a couple of plays where Brock technically had 3 carries today, but one was a QB sneak and one was a fumble recovery on the snap. So outside of that, he had like one, and it was I think it was a scramble where he ran for a couple yards. So it wasn't a designed run. If you're talking about design plays, Brock Purdy had 25 pass attempts, and the 49ers between Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel had 25 rushes. So that's 50-50 down the middle, right? But again, besides that quarterback sneak, that is pretty 50-50. And the fact of the matter is that usually, I mean, Kyle Juszczyk can't touch the ball. Jordan Mason can't even sniff the field because Elijah Mitchell's not sniffing the field. TDP doesn't even dress these days, right? Like, it's Christian McCaffrey or bust, it seems like. And I do worry that they're going to overexpose him and potentially get him, hurt later in the year. I'd prefer that they, keep him fresh, but there could be a method to this madness that we're just not privy to. I think it'll be very interesting to see what the carries look like on Thursday against the Giants, because you'd like to see Elijah Mitchell and maybe Jordan Mason get some carries and kind of give Christian McCaffrey a little bit of a rest and then get him ready to go for week 4.
Right. Agreed. I think this just speaks to how much he trusts Brock Purdy and how confident he is in him, because I think before, yes, the 49ers have always had a fantastic running game, but maybe out of necessity. Like, maybe that was because Kyle absolutely felt like, if I'm going to win games, it's because of our running game. It's not going to be because of our quarterback. Maybe that mentality starting to change with Brock Purdy back there. And he's like, I don't need to rely on the running game as much. And I didn't even do the math before I asked you. 50-50. It's like, that's kind of impressive, actually. Speaking of Brock, I want to pull this up. It's nothing that's like too important, but I just thought it was funny. And we've heard about it for, 2-3 years now. Levi South, Levi South. Look at this shot in game. I got to change the layout here. Look at this. Let me make it big. All the red in the stands. That's insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, and Nick Bosa was interviewed earlier by Howie Long on Fox NFL Sunday, where he was like, asking him about them wearing, the red home jerseys, and Nick Bosa was like, yeah, I don't know what that's about, but he's like, whatever, I like wearing the Reds. But it was like, and we talked about it, it was like the second home opener for the 49ers, where again, we call it Levi South for a reason. The 49ers tend to win there, and I mean, outside of the NFC Championship game, I don't think that they've lost a game there. They've won every time they've played. So, it is something where it's very 49ers friendly. We saw it last week in Pittsburgh. There were a lot of 49er fans, more than you would expect for maybe other teams. But the 49ers travel really well. Same thing happens at Jerry World in Dallas, where the 49er fans travel really well. The 49ers, their fan base is nationwide. And they go to the games.
It's awesome.
And that's something that I think that's really important, and really creates an advantage for the 49ers on the road. It's Levi South is definitely their home away from home. That's for sure.
It's awesome. And yeah, aside from the championship game, the 49ers have won now the last 9 games versus the Rams straight. 9-0 as in the regular season, and I know every single Rams fan will say, "Oh, I don't care, we won the one that matters." 9-0 in the regular season, so it really is impressive to see what Kyle Shanahan has been able to do against Sean McVay. We're going to be wrapping up here shortly. Let you guys get to Sunday Night Football, but Matt, I have to ask you about Jake Moody. We were all stressing all preseason. He's missing kicks.
No, y'all were stressing all preseason.
Well, we collectively as 49ers fan base on Twitter, right? And he was fantastic today. What was the kick? 57-yard kick he made? Can you talk about Jake Moody and your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's more of what I saw from him at Michigan, and especially particularly in the last year. He's a Power 5 conference, kicker who kicked in big games, kicked in championship games in college. We were a little bit worried with how he was going to do in the NFL. I do think that training camp was a good place for him to have those misses, preseason to have those misses, because if you look at the college field, those hashes are super wide and you can kick from all kinds of weird angles. And in the NFL, you kind of got to dial it in and tighten it up a little bit. And I think it was just a little bit of an adjustment. Who knows when he actually injured that quad and if it was affecting him in ways that we weren't aware of, that he was just, missing those kicks. But in the games when it counts, I mean, he's been making the kicks. So in the famous words of Allen Iverson, we're talking about practice, man. In the games, not the games, practice. In the games, he's been really good. Another good performance from him. He was perfect on his kicks today. I think we can kind of breathe in and realize, okay, we got ourselves a kicker. And at the very least, it wasn't a wasted pick.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really impressed by him. I think he's shown a lot of resolve, and something we didn't even talk about last week.
I will say real quick, say, by the way, that was a dog shit kickoff he had, though. He kicked that shit
went out of bounds.
At the 25-yard line. I don't know what happened, but
that was tough.
That was
bad. We didn't even talk about this last week. I meant to bring it up. I had it written down, but I think it's 100% likely that Mike Tomlin, and I'm sorry to bring up last week, but pulled his special teams aside and said, I don't care if you're offsides, block the fuck out of this kick. This kid, I've seen him get rattled. We're going to rattle him. We're going to ice him, and then we're going to block the kick. I don't care if you're offside. We'll take the penalty. And they did it, and Mitch Wishnowsky almost carried the ball 18 yards for a first down, but it didn't phase Jake Moody. He went back, and he still made the kick the very next play. So I'm impressed with him. I think he's been good.
Big shoes to fill. And on the 27-yard field goal, whatever it was, he slipped and still made it, So there's something to him. I think that they got themselves a kicker. Very impressed. I think it was 2 punts that Wishnowsky had. He did a good job there. So he's solid. The 49ers were able to pull it out, and that was nice. That was really, really good.
Yeah, who said it here? David Yang. 49ers are ball hawking if you're throwing the ball. That's another 2 interceptions today. So we had 2 last week, I believe.
Yep.
2 this week. I'm trying to pull up. I don't know if we can see team interception stats. I'm pulling it up right now. They are second in the NFL with 2. The Saints have 3, the Jets have 3, and the Falcons, Cowboys, and 49ers each have 2.
Dude, one dude on the Jets has 3.
Yeah. That's right. Jordan Whitehead.
Yeah. Yeah, the 49ers defense seemed like maybe halfway through last season really got good at takeaway football, at taking the ball away. Whereas before it's like, yes, stifling defense, but low turnovers, right? They're not going to force a ton. But yeah, and that's even with another, I think there was another 2 drops. I know that Warner had a dropped one last week, which shout out to Fred Warner. He was excellent again today. But yeah, they're ball hawks, man. They're going to get it done. So that was the key to the second half, was those couple of turnovers, those interceptions. Good job to Isaiah Oliver on the tip drill, which, a lot of teams practice those tip drills because you want to be able to catch those. And then Diamador Lenore undercutting that route. And I thought it was one of the few bright spots of illustration from Mark Sanchez, where he showed that Van Jefferson actually took the route too deep rather than cutting it underneath and making it quarterback friendly. I thought that Diamador Lenore, when he saw the receiver start pinning back and Matthew Stafford's throw, did a great job of undercutting and taking that ball and taking it the other way. And really kind of, that was the moment where you're like, okay, this is a wrap. This is over. So, it's a testament to the 49ers that they're able to win 9 straight regular season games against these Rams. They're so deep in Sean McVay's head that he decided to mess up point spread bets for everybody else by kicking a field goal as time expired on a 7.5 point line.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Bad beat for all you bettors out there who took the Rams and the points. You ain't getting that one. So yeah, it's just bad all the way around for the Rams. Good for the 49ers. We got out of there 2-0.
Yeah. Speaking of bad bets, I had multiple parlays today, but 2 of them in this specific game. I try not to bet on the 49ers winning or losing because I always seem to jinx us when I do. So instead, I like to bet on who's going to score, right? So I parlayed a Kyron Williams touchdown with a George Kittle touchdown. And then I parlayed a CMC touchdown with a Brandon Ayuk touchdown. Yeah, very, very close, man. Very close. And I almost did a Brock Purdy sneak because I'm like, there's a good chance in a 49ers game that their quarterback's going to sneak it.
Quarterback sneak, yeah.
But I didn't. It's all right. It's all right. I'll get back. I think I'm 0 for 20 something on my bets, but that's all right. That just means there's room for improvement.
Davey Yank says nobody's messing with Greg Olson right now as far as commentating. I assume you mean that he's bad. I don't know.
No, I think he's like at the top.
Oh, okay. I mean, I think that Romo got lazy there for a year and a half. CBS talked to him.
Mm-hmm.
He's been much better so far this year. I think that when he's on his game, him and Jim Nantz are the best. But dude, Mark Sanchez was. I wanted to shove an ice pick into my ear. He was just rambling on about stuff, just exclaiming I don't know. But I actually tweeted I was like, at Fox Sports NFL, can you make sure that Mark Sanchez never calls another 49ers game right now? Because my ears are bleeding.
It was bad.
It was terrible. It was terrible.
People replied to me saying maybe he's just rooting for the underdog, but he literally screamed no when Matt Stafford was flagged for intentional grounding for throwing that deep ball. Like, it seemed like he was actively rooting for the Rams. And that possible Deebo Samuel fumble, he kept going back to it, which I was surprised the 49ers didn't snap the ball immediately. Like, I don't know if they didn't realize that he almost fumbled the ball. Called a timeout.
They saw angles we didn't. And I really do think that ball touched out of bounds. And I think that's why the Rams didn't either, because there was no other indication that they shouldn't have challenged it other than the fact that when the defender went to recover it, I saw the ball tip, and that meant that it was right on the edge anyway, which meant that it touched the chalk. So I think that's
okay.
kind of
that
where
makes
that
me.
went.
Yeah, I was like, snap the ball, and then Brock called the timeout. I was stressing, man. I was fully expecting a red challenge flag to come out from the Rams sideline. We're gonna get into a little bit of a preview for the Thursday night game, but before we do, we got to pay the bills and thank today's sponsor, which is my bookie, guys. I know I just said I'm for something on the bets, but that's on me. All right, I'll take full ownership. The money is there to be made. We just got to go out there and make it. And right now, if you sign up at MyBookie using promo code Hive, they will match your first deposit all the way up to $1,000. You could deposit $1,000, they'll match you $1,000. You have $2,000 in your account. The Sunday night game just started, guys, but there are 2 games tomorrow night to make some money on. First, we got the Saints versus the Panthers at 4:15 p.m. and the Browns versus the Steelers at 5:15 p.m. Plenty of opportunities to make some money.
They're running them both at the same time.
Yeah, they're an hour. They're calling it a
Weird.
double header, but it's not really a double header. They're an hour apart.
Are they on the same network or are they on different networks?
Saints and Panthers, ESPN, Steelers, Browns, ABC.
So yes.
Yeah. It's all owned by Disney, but it's weird. I'm not a fan of it.
It's a good thing I got shout outs to YouTube TV where I can do multi-view.
It's nice. It is nice. But yeah, guys, take advantage of this special promo code Hive, HIVE, mybookie.ag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. All right, Matt, we saw the Giants come back from a 20-0 deficit in the first half to beat the Arizona Cardinals 31-28, the largest comeback in Giants history. They play in 5 days versus the 49ers. It's the 49ers, Levi's home opener. What's your thoughts on this game? Just a quick preview. We're going to do a full preview later in the week, guys. But
yeah, I think the fact that they got down 20-0 to a team like the Arizona Cardinals with Joshua Dobbs as their quarterback is a bad sign to begin with. And then you take on the fact that Saquon Barkley came off the field, seems to have an ankle injury. We don't know how bad it is, but it's enough that he was pretty hobbled. It is a short week. That's going to make it tough on both teams, but they're coming off the same amount of rest. All things being equal, I think that the 49ers in their 94 throwbacks come out, take care of business. It's a weak team. It's ripe for the picking. They just have to make sure that they take this game very seriously, put it to bed early so they can get out of there with a win.
I didn't even realize that they're wearing the throwbacks. I love it. Yeah, at some point the Giants were on the season.
Which, by the way, before you get into your thought, they're wearing the 94 throwbacks, and I've made like a little thing to myself. I'm going to buy a Vapor Elite of whatever 49er plays the best in that game.
Oh, shit. Okay.
That's just my own little personal thing because I don't have a Vapor Elite throwback yet, so I'm going to get one.
Nice. Yeah, I was telling Ash the other day, come the end of the year and Brock Purdy's looked good, I'm getting a Brock Purdy jersey. But all right. At one point today, the Giants were down 60-0 on the year because they were 40-0 last week, 20-0 up until they started scoring. I think they scored 20-something straight points, 21 straight points. This is an extremely vulnerable team. I'm not a believer in Daniel Jones. I think the 49ers, it's there for the taking. Definitely a homeowner. I said it in the group chat earlier. It's like when a high school team schedules their homecoming game against like a really easy team. That's what it's appearing to be. A couple of weeks ago, it did not appear to be that. This looks like a really tough game for the 49ers home opener. Maybe that's not the case anymore. Jose Casillas, am I the only one who hates the Manning Bros Monday Night Football cast? I've never actually watched it. I've seen a lot of clips of it on social media, but I usually like to pay attention to like what's actually going on in the game. They talk a lot and they're kind of joking around and they have their guests on, which it's more obviously them than the game, calling the game, but I'm not a fan of it. I don't know, Matt, if you watch the Manning Bros on Monday night.
I do sometimes. I like it in doses. Like, I don't watch it live because that's not the way that I like to take in football. But if I see that they've had somebody on that's interesting or somebody like that, I'll go and look up like clips of it, right? While it's playing or whatever. Or like, Twitter will post, obviously ESPN wants to push that really hard. So ESPN will post clips of it or whatever. But I can take it in doses and I kind of just like it for clips. But as a general rule for the actual game, I like to just watch the game, as is with hopefully good broadcasters, but sometimes that seems to be few and far between.
Likewise. All right. Final thoughts here. Sunday night. The Sunday night game started about 20 minutes ago. Who do you got tonight?
I got to ride with my wife's team, the Miami Dolphins, even though the New England Patriots are in those sweet, sweet retro unis.
Beautiful.
With the Patriot hiking the football. Like, that's just such a cool logo to me. But yeah, I think the Dolphins, again, Mike McDaniel, it's just a team that I really kind of root for, despite the fact that I do have some problem with, Raheem Mostert. We all know that, but anybody from the Shanahan tree, I'm kind of rooting for. So good on them. I hope they win tonight. Tired of the Patriots. They can go hibernate for a few years. It'd be fine with me.
Exactly. The bill comes due for every dynasty. This is their bill coming due. I also have the Dolphins, but I took the under because I think that the Patriots have a legit defense, and the under I think was 43.5 on my bookie. So the Dolphins and the under. We'll see how it goes.
Okay. Remember, guys, mybookie.ag, the money is there for the having, unless you're Zach, because these are terrible bets, dude.
Hey, I'm all about the odds, man. Dolphins and the under, I think, was like plus 450 or something. So I'll take it. Hey, what's $5 to me, right? $5 turned into 40.
That's true.
It is what it is. I'm playing on last year's money. I finished the year up last year, so that's
there you go.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Red and Gold Standard Podcast. Hit like, hit subscribe. Oh, do you want to do a chat pack?
Chat pack. We got to do it.
All right. I always forget. All right. Let's get a good one here. You guys can answer as well.
Chat pack needs to sponsor this show, by the way.
Yeah, I should reach out to them. I don't think any other sports podcasts do this. We've asked this one already. I don't think we've asked this one. Stop me if we have.
Okay.
If you could invent a pair of glasses that would allow you to see abstract things, example, the motives behind someone's actions, what would you want to see?
I think we did ask.
Okay, it sounded kind of familiar.
It sounds familiar, yeah.
Okay. How about this one? What is an item you own that has virtually no monetary value, but has such sentimental value that you would not sell it for any money in the world?
Oh, that's a good one. That is a good one.
It's tough because no monetary value.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's nothing.
How about little to none?
Yeah, so I know this wasn't expensive, but my wife got this for me. So we had a daughter recently. Her name is Emerald, and as like a gift to me, right? She got me this. So this is a raw, unprocessed but polished emerald. So this is a raw emerald. This is actually an emerald. It was lab created, so it's not like super valuable or whatever. But to me, it's very valuable, and it's something that I cherish. And to me, actually, it's kind of cool because every chat pack that we've had, I've kind of gotten into the whole space thing, right? This looks like a planet to me.
Oh yeah.
Like when you go around, it has all the little things in it and the different colors. Like if you showed this to me, if this was on a Star Trek episode, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's cool. But no, it means a lot to me. And it's just a reminder, like family first. I got a new daughter. It's pretty exciting time. So that one for me.
That's awesome. For me, I have an old watch from my Uncle Roy, and it's broken. It's like an old, probably a watch from Walmart, to be honest with you. But he's the reason why I like football, right? Like he used to live with my dad when I was growing up, and he was a sports nerd, man. Football, baseball, hockey, anything. And I would go and sit in his room and just talk football for hours. And I was this little 6-7-year-old kid, and I would just talk football with him. And then I'd go home and I would just have all this football knowledge, and I'd be able to name players and do all this shit. So Uncle Roy's probably the reason why I even like the 49ers to begin with, or at least as much as I do. Unfortunately, he passed about 5 years ago. Actually, right at the start of COVID, he passed. So about 4 years ago now. And yeah, I'd probably have to pick that watch. Probably wouldn't sell it for anything. Rest in peace, Uncle Roy. All right, guys, that's going to do this episode of Red and Gold Standard Podcast. Hit like, hit subscribe. Our handles on Twitter are on the screen. You can follow the podcast at RGS Pod. Follow us at 49ers Hive so you don't miss a thing. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Happy betting. Good luck on tonight. Good luck on tomorrow night. There's 2 games, 2 opportunities to make some money. Matt, you want to carry us out?
Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us. A lot of other 49ers pods going. So, all of you who joined us here, we appreciate you. You're the real ones. We'll be back probably Wednesday for a game preview for the Giants. So come back and join us then. Great win today. Tougher than it needed to be, but the good teams win ugly. That being said, we love having you here as always. And until next time, go Niners.